So, you think the PMP exam is all about Gantt charts, critical paths, and process flows, right? Well, I'm here to tell you, you might be in for a bit of a shock. Let's dive right in, because honestly, what we're about to cover is the real secret to acing the modern PMP. Just look at this, 42%. That is a huge chunk of your exam score. We're talking nearly half of all the questions. And they're not about technical stuff. Nope. They're about your ability to lead, to influence, and, to manage the actual people on your projects. This is where the real work happens. So, what does that actually mean? It means the PMP isn't just a processed exam anymore, it's a leadership exam. See, PMI wants to know if you can be a facilitator, a true leader, not just a box-ticking manager. And that's exactly what this is all about. We're going to get you thinking like the project leader the PMP exam demands. All right, let's jump into our first big challenge, leading your team. And right off the bat, I'll tell you, it's not about having one fixed style. It's all about adapting to what your people need right when they need it. Okay, time to put on your project leader hat. Imagine this. You've got a team member who is an absolute rock star, super skilled, but lately they're just checked out, They do the work, and it's correct, but all the passion is gone. So what's your move? This is a classic PMP-style question, by the way. All right, let's break this down. Over on the left, you've got the wrong answers, and these are some really common traps. First up, the direct approach. This is basically micromanaging. I mean, can you imagine doing that to a senior, skilled person? It's just insulting, and it's going to make things way worse. Then you have the opposite trap, delegate. Just let them figure it out. The problem here is you're completely ignoring the real issue. Their motivation is in the gutter. Now, let's look at the right answer, support. See the difference? You're not ignoring their skill, you're acknowledging it. But you're stepping in to tackle the low commitment head on by listening, encouraging, basically working with them to figure out what's going on. And hey, this right answer isn't just pulled out of thin air. It comes straight from a core PMP model called situational leadership. And the big idea here is super simple but powerful. There is no one best way to lead. The best leaders are chameleons. They adapt their style to fit the person and the specific task at hand. And this lays out the 4 styles perfectly. Think of it like a journey. You start with directing. That's for someone who's maybe new, totally green but excited. Then, as they get some skills, you shift to coaching. And then you've got supporting. That was our answer, right? For the person who has the skills but maybe lost their mojo. And finally, you get to delegating. That's the dream. They're skilled, they're motivated, and you can just let them run with it. So here it is, your first big takeaway, your memory anchor for this section. Ready? Match your style to their situation. Simple as that. The exam will try to trick you with one-size-fits-all answers. Don't fall for it. Okay, let's keep this momentum going. Challenge number 2, resolving team conflict. And let me tell you, this is a big one. It's tested heavily on the exam because, let's be real, conflict on a project isn't a possibility. It's a guarantee. All right, picture this. The office is tense. You can cut the air with a knife. Your 2 best engineers are practically shouting at each other over some technical detail, and you can just feel the morale of the entire team plummeting. What do? I mean, what is your first move as the leader here? Man, the wrong answers here are so tempting, right? You could avoid it and just hope it blows over, which it never does. Or you could go full authoritarian and force the solution, but that just breeds resentment. And escalate, tattling to their managers, that just makes you look like you can't handle your own team. No, the PMI way, the leader's way, is to facilitate. Notice you're not playing judge and jury. You're creating the space for the team to hash it out and build their own solution. And this whole approach has a name. It's called collaborate or problem solve. And you need to know this because PMI considers this the absolute gold standard. Why? Because it's the only one that aims for a true win-win. You're not just putting out a fire, you're actually making the team stronger by teaching them how to work through tough issues together. This table is your cheat sheet. Seriously, look at it. Collaborate is the only one that gets you to that beautiful win-win. Now, look at compromise. People think that's good, but it's often a lose-lose because everybody walks away a little unhappy. And force, well, that's just a classic win-lose. So here's the key for your exam. If the issue is important and the relationship is important, which they usually are, collaborate is almost always going to be your go-to answer. Okay, time for your next memory anchor. Burn this one into your brain. Don't solve the problem, facilitate the solution. Your job isn't to be the hero with all the answers. Your job is to be the guide who helps the team find the answers themselves. All right, on to our third and final challenge. So far, we've been looking inward at the team. Now, we're going to look outward at stakeholders. And honestly, these are the people who can truly make or break your entire project. Oof, this one's a nightmare scenario, isn't it? You did everything by the book. You got the sign-off, you have the paperwork, and now a really important stakeholder is backing out, saying it's not what they wanted. Your project is suddenly at risk. Your gut is probably screaming to pull out that signed document and prove them wrong, right? But what's the PMI way to handle this? Waving that signed paper in their face? That's just going to start a war and kill the relationship. Running to their boss? Again, you look weak. See, the PMP mindset is all about emotional intelligence. So the first, best, and only correct initial move is to listen. That's it. Just listen. You have to understand why they're unhappy before you can even begin to figure out what to do next. And this is such a key insight, not just for the exam, but for your career. Our first instinct is always to jump into defense mode, right? To explain ourselves or start brainstorming solutions. But the true leader, the professional, resists that urge. They seek to understand first, because that's how you build trust. And trust is the only thing that's going to get you to a real solution here. Now, listening is step one, but it's part of a whole playbook. Once you understand the real problem, your job is to keep the lines of communication wide open. You clarify who's responsible for what, you get any new agreements down in writing so there's no confusion, and, this is huge, you follow up consistently. It's a professional, structured way to handle these messy situations. And that brings us to our last memory anchor. And honestly, this one is probably the most important of all. A piece of advice that is just timeless. Seek to understand before seeking to be understood. Let that sink in. It is absolutely central to the PMP mindset. Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. We've talked about leading your team, handling conflict, and engaging stakeholders. Have you spotted the pattern yet? What's the one single mindset that links every single right answer we've discussed? It's what we call the servant leader mindset. Think back on all our examples. The right answer was never to command or dictate or take control. It was always about empowering, facilitating, listening, coaching, about pulling the team into the solution. That is the heart and soul of the people domain. At the end of the day, the PMP exam sees the project leader not as the hero of the story, but as the person who clears the road for the heroes. And the heroes are your team. Your job is to be a roadblock remover and obstacle clearer so you can empower your team to do what they do best. Look, passing the PMP isn't about memorizing a bunch of processes from a book. It's about making this mindset a part of who you are as a professional. So I'll leave you with this one final question. Are you ready to lead and not just manage? Because that right there is the whole game.